That is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. Oh, God. So, shall we begin? The time has come for yet another Herlock Sholmes logic and reasoning spectacular. Beep boop, beep boop boop. The Great Deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Mystery Man's Aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business you would venture to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by the which you hold in your hand. Yes, what you brought to you this shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. This piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet even the most observant would soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need for such employ. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane, which you are unwillingly clutched to your person, exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. The end of any walking cane must be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows that the wooden tip of this stick is to be utterly barren. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? Well... And in your recoiling, you advertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding the riddle you see. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle? Mused I. But of course, as I said, there is no walking cane. No, that rod. Is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined the undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wicked, calculated crime. I don't think that's right, Mr. Sholmes. The tunnel underneath the pawnbrokery. You know, one of these days we're gonna be like, no, you're wrong, and then one of these days it's actually gonna be exactly what he said. The great crime. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. Or we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath the pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose I would expect to find there? Let's do the schmoove. Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose? Save for such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have do as you say? Oh, but this is an ample reason. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, in your furtive glance, it's more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let us consider what motive would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath its floor. The answer to it was revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the incoming sewage works, beneath this shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? but excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway that flows in very close proximity to the Great Vault of the financial institution opposite. What are you? In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us to at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. With that plunder, did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I have happened to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, the picture postcard tells us all we need to know. Postcard of the Great Exhibition? I'm afraid you have quite lost me. Currently, in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that are currently sit in the vault of the bank, on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you have been contemplating is the theft of which sits in the vault of the bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. You know, I want you to know, if this isn't the guy's plan, but you certainly just gave him a really good one to do. You just, of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. You steal the Great Exhibition's reserve funds. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this pawn-broking puzzle. Excuse me. Water. Help. Mr. Holmes? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness. Would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vaults? Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Gregson told me in the strictest confidence. But you just announced it to everyone here, rather loudly in fact. Ah, and if such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be only one explanation for that. Clearly, it is because the man is a criminal. What if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he's a criminal, as you said, then bearing a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you revealed the secret. Oh. Or if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Windybank will. He already had plenty of shovels here after all. Oh my life, I assure you I'm not unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be so sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's over. Perhaps I'd think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Holmes. An excellent idea, Mr. Naruhodo. An excellent idea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes. Let's listen to the great deduction again and see if we can massage it into place. Well, very well then. Let us start once more from the beginning. Of Sherlock Holmes' magnificent logic and reasoning, spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Holmes. First of all, we must ask ourselves what business you ventured into this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. It was revealed by the witch you hold it in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the staff recruiting flyer. So by Mr. Shom's reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, it's an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't go very far with a broken shovel, would he? No, I think it's quite fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. Question is, where? Why did he bring Mr. Benedict here in this particular point in time? Let's see what we... Oh, is that Gina? Is it scribbled writing? Hey, sir, just stand still real quick. We gotta read this. Oh, look at all these scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Doesn't know what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade, height 5'2". Green cap, scuffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, ragged. The detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness. Doing a sketch of her, hat and all. Although if he showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop had been written down here too. Winnipegg's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street. Redemption deadline 15th of April. April 15th. Which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all this information scrawled on the back of this piece of paper? Info about Miss Lestrade. Well, that's obviously it.
Take that!
Ha! Yes, what brought you here today in this shop is the very place in the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch on the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket, Miss Lestrade, and to Mr. Winnipegg's Pawnbrokery here. You originally told us you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thin veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to Winnipegg's Pawnbrokery, and today the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. Humph. And you have gone to lengths to hide the reasoning for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwillingly clutch in your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What on a rot? I've had this cane for years. Contradiction of which I speak is, of course, missing the pharaoh. No, it's not. Oh, what is a ferrule? Ferrule? It's the metal cap commonly found at the end of a cane, Mr. Naruhodo. He literally talked about it, you dummy. The bit that makes the nice clanking sound on the pavement? Yes, exactly, and Mr. Shomes is right. It appears to be missing on this cane. It doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't, though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Mr. Shomes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we not know. Can I look at anything else funny about this man? Where I look at that model, it's clipping into itself. Couldn't be me. Pretty sure it has to do with this. Let's investigate it first. Look here, Miss Suzuto. There's also some letters on the handle. Yes, there must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letter of their names. So, Herlock Sholmes would be HS, you mean? That's right. And the initials on the cane, obviously. Oh. AG. Why does it feel as though that's not quite right? It would have to be that, right? There's nothing on the back here. Anything over there? No. It has to be on the cane. Anything in the middle of the cane? No. I'm guessing it's this initialing.
Take that!
The initialing. Contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation. Why don't you say, Mr. Eggert Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are EB. Yet, in most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a king bearing the initials AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you are wrong. This cane isn't... You said before that you had this cane for years. So don't try to tell us that you're just borrowing it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, no, you hold yourself to be a gentleman. You have withheld your true name. Is that a tear? You recoil, sir, is something wrong. And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitated the answer to the next conundrum to present itself. And Amy, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you advertently would like to conceal is the key to understanding the riddle, you see. Now, they sound like tears. Let's consider the bare bones of what happened here. Miss Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking overcoat. And now a mysterious man has appeared, introducing himself with a fake name, claiming that the overcoat belonged to him. But we know that he actually identified Miss Lestrade from our description, which suggests that everything else he told us is untrue. And what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. Yeah, okay, so is it let me guess, there's a tear. I heard a tear, bro, that was, yeah, right here. It's too small on him. Oh, the seam on the shoulder layer is coming apart, look! So it is. You know, a moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said, I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. Sounded a bit like a tiny growl. Now I think it was probably the sound of the seam ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. Sleeves are stretched to bursting, and you wouldn't even have a hope of fastening it at the front. If you were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry. How can we make Mr. Benedict run around? We're like giving this some thought.
Take that!
Split seam, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it open your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you are so boldly lying about your name and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalog of untruths have been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windybait. Oh! But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined had been considerably curtailed. To abscond with a redeemed item. Can they use less complicated words for me? I'm a bit of a dummy. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of the elaborate crime you have in planning. This is utterly absurd. Oh yeah, you suggest that I, a gentleman, design a wheeze flinch some tardy. Okay, we're changing the thing now. You suggest that I, a gentleman, designed a wheeze to filch some tawdry article of pawnage? Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner using the watchword? Had I not been the one to deposit it in the first place, how could I possibly have known the relevant details? N'est-ce pas? Oh, but that watchword can be discovered, as you are only well aware, Mr. Benedict. Ah, and your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? I'm gonna give Benedict a different voice sometime in this middle of this. Let us continue. Consider how one might come to learn a secret watchword relating to the poniard property of another. The method is revealed by the council notice on the counter at which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Is it that thing next to it? The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers. A pity, because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway, can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, Professor. You didn't know that word, Mr. Winniebank could never allow you to redeem the article. Or, looking at it another way, you did know that word, Mr. Winniebank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. But the question is, could this gentleman have found the watchword out somehow? Is it that piece of paper right here? Look at this, Miss Suzuto. Ah, it appears to be a memo that Mr. Winniebank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Winniebank must take a note of the watchwords his customers give him right before their eyes. And an alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets I might see? Or right here. No, not the revolver. Oh my god.
Take that!
The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter at which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whether a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on a notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. His diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Miss Lestrade. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Winniebank. While the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice. Oh. Likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Winniebank. When the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice. You observed him drawing the word professor on the notelet beside the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Master plan! Which brings us at last to the last chapter of this lucrative scheme. What would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an ill-fitting overcoat, hardly seeming to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. But naturally, you had a very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present you a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, this picture postcard tells us all we need to know. The article we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box discs that were in one of the pockets. According to Mr. Windybank, isn't even worth a penny. Yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? Wonder if perhaps we already had the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo. Could we? Really? I better have a thorough look through all the evidence we collected so far.
Take that!
What? That's the only evidence we have! What spectacular contrived logic led you to this mindless conclusion? Oh, well, it's supposed to be a logic and reasoning spectacular, so I thought I'll contribute to the show. This is my show, Mr. Naruhodo. Kindly perform any particular experience on your own stage. Sorry. There used to be some fairly highly measures to try and get his hands on this overcoat and the disc. Really doesn't want either for their monetary value, though. Still, there must be value somehow to someone. The last piece of the puzzle. Have another look through the evidence to see if there's any clues hiding. There's literally nothing else. Review the scene. Wait, do I have to investigate this first? I dropped my controller. You skullduggery game. Oh, it's a little scrap of paper stuck on the reverse side of the disc, look! And a scribbled word or two, it looks like someone's name. Or Mr. McGilded. Mr. McGilded, it couldn't be. I hate it when I always investigate first, bro. Come on. Come on. Yeah. But it is Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget, for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? Alright, game. That's cool. That's cool, you know.
Take that!
This music box disc is all we need to know. What's that on the back? It reads for Mr. McGilded. I want to give him a bit of a higher pitch. Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his learned mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusual small stature. In fact, precisely the right size for that overcoat that you squeezed yourself into. The true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Eggert Benedict. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today. Do the dance. What? Was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Require an item deposited by Mr. McGilded. Deduction complete. Elementary. Well, Mr. Magnus McGilded. Not a name I expected to hear in these circumstances. Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid there's something very troubling in my mind. Pray tell, Miss Suzuto. Well, according to what Mr. Windybank told us earlier, today was the final day on which the coat could have been redeemed, was it not? Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Today would be precisely 2 months since it was first deposited. Well, today is April 15th, so 2 months ago today would have been February 15th, sir. That's right. It's all carefully recorded in my ledger. Deposited at 10:30 p.m., I see. What? But that suggests... Yes, February 15th. Precisely the day in which the omnibus murder took place. 10:30 in the evening. Precisely the time in which the terrible events were unfolding. Suggestive is not the word. It would seem the matter is entirely beyond coincidence. You are, of course, at liberty to make whatever outlandish deductions you choose. However, I must insist you hand over the music box disc now. It will be a terrible shame for you to return to your native land in a box. What do I do? Hand over the disc. You can shoot me at any moment. I hate to give it in, but what other choice do I really have here?
Hold it!
Oh, Mr. Windybank. This is my shop. I can't allow any harm to come to my customers. If that were to happen, I should have to take my own life. Mr. Windybank, no! Alright, that's enough. Inspector Gregson! Inspector? That's right, Sunshine. The alarm was raised on one of our dedicated emergency lines. Well, we got here as fast as we could. Now, what's all this about, eh? Oh, praise be, you're here at last. I was moments away from forfeiting my own life and went to my very own establishment. What do you mean, Gregson? What do you mean what's going on here? He has a gun to us. It would seem you have the upper hand. It would seem you have the upper hand. Right, you lot have some great explaining to do. I don't appreciate being bothered by some petty argy-bargy. Petty? The Windybank very nearly met with his end. Yeah, by his own gun, as far as I can tell. Oh dear. The whole grin could meet up with its end if I don't get the bottom of this case I'm supposed to be working on. What? What on earth is the case, Inspector? Where? No, detail, Gregson. I might have said a little too much. No matter, it's nothing to do with you lot. Anyway, sir, you're gonna have to come with me down to the station. But of course, Inspector. Ah! He's getting away! My dogs are going crazy. Go after him, lads! Whistle the beat officer, too. Alright. There's been a spate of thefts at pawn shops around here recently. So we fitted emergency buttons underneath the counters for broker to let us know when there's trouble. Oh, Inspector, I was very worried that for a while. Very worried indeed. Now then, Mr. Permanently in mourning. Oh, yes. We taking this wherever it is and Mr. McGill down to the yard. Thank you very much. Well, hand it over. Oh, yes, of course. No, you don't. Don't give it to him. It's mine. That's it. It's mine. I'm sorry, miss. Anything belonging to Mr. McGill, it has to be taken in as evidence now. As evidence? If the police demand something as evidence, my dear fellow, we have no choice but to capitulate. It's all yours, Inspector. Boom. Boom. And so, we handed Mr. McGilded's disc over to Inspector Gregson. We're summarily turfed out of the shop and onto the street. Oh dear God, to be continued. Someone help. There's been a murder. Guys, how long is this investigation gonna be?